The first thing, as I say always, is that you should love it, what you're doing, because there's always the ups and downs in any industry, and so the music industry is particularly very different right now, and the guys here at the school are studying. This is why this is a great school. They're studying all these different parts of what you may need to know being a musician, even engineering and knowing how to run Pro Tools. Being able to do your own sessions, being able to write is very important to me too, especially as if you call yourself a musician, knowing theory, harmony, that sort of thing. So being as well-rounded as you can is the key to surviving. And of course, like I said, the people skills meaning, just being able to, talk to people and find out what their interests are and how that you can best serve them. Because that's really what we are as drummers, You can't play drum solos with every artist you play with. Most of the time they're not, but you got to find out, most of all we're a rhythm accompanying instrument, so we got to find out how to make that work. So my advice to them, first of all, is you better love it, be as well-rounded as possible. I mean, people know me as a jazz drummer and brush master or whatever, and that's great. But let me tell you, the brush mastery, whatever, didn't come until much later in my career after I had played with Sammy Davis and all that. But while I was working with them, I was observing and I was taking in. So, one, love it. Two, always be willing to learn, even if it's learning what not to do. Sometimes that's more important. In fact, I remember I had a conversation with Miles Davis one time. He saw me playing with Sammy Davis Jr. and he came up to me and we had a nice conversation. But one of the things that struck me, he said, I really like the way you set up the band, is what Miles said. And I'm just smiling ear to ear, not really saying anything, just listening. He says, but sometimes you can set it up and not play. And I said, wow, that's really interesting. And so I tried that. There were certain situations, well, yeah, you set up a nice figure or whatever, and then you let the band have it, whatever the situation is. So always willing to learn and willing to listen, I think it is really key, because sometimes we can get, especially as drummers, because the first thing to change in music is usually the rhythm. It's like, you got your era where, guys just play the bass drum on all fours. Well, then what happens, Max Roach, Kitty Clark come up and Roy Haynes come up and they start adding the syncopation. James Brown, same way, kind of like church grooves, 12/8. In secular music in America. And then what does James do? Well, he hires a drummer that goes. Other guys had a heart attack if he did that in a band. So drummers have to be willing to, adapt, because it's the first thing that really changes. Harmony's not going to change and people are still going to play chords, but rhythm is something that is constantly evolving and different things coming together. So you have to really, as drummers, I think, just really have your ears open and don't be stubborn. In terms of influences, there's always, Papa Joe Jones, Philly Joe Jones, Vanell Fournier, Denzel Best, all these different guys who, most of them I never saw live, but I listened to them on records and just trying to figure out, how do they produce certain sounds. Like someone like Vanell Fournier, who played with Ahmad Jamal, has a really great style where he barely lifts the brushes off the head of the drum when he's playing. And then there's Papa Joe Jones, who completely uses the tip of the brush, and that's a whole nother sound, big sound. That sort of thing. So yeah, so there's a lot of influences with those guys.